right, good morning. Thank you to everybody for being here this morning. Thank you to everybody for being so attentive over the course of what is now pushing 2.5 hours. I really appreciate it. This was important work that our group embarked on this year, and I'm glad that you get a chance to see the results of our collective efforts. I'm kind of glad that I'm last. I wasn't sure how I felt about that, but after hearing all of my colleagues present, I feel like actually what I worked on is a good thing to end with. And I'll also say that as I listened to all of you present this morning, I felt very fortunate to work at East High School, and I also felt very sad that the same resources and outcomes are not being seen across the district. And I really hope that maybe some of the ideas in this presentation will help to maybe forward some of that, pay some of that forward to other places for other students across our district. So, my research question was, how can RCSD use East's community school model in other buildings to benefit our students, family, and community? I have to stand over here because I can't see my slides. So my rationale had a lot to do with poverty. And I've known for a long time, like Liz mentioned, that Rochester is in the top, not just of the state, but of the country as far as most impoverished districts. You can see, I put a quote up here, but one of the facts that really was hard to think about was that 1 in 2 students in the Rochester City School District live in poverty. 1 in 2, which just to me seems amazing. Community schools, as I read through the literature, they help to increase academic achievement, attendance, and graduation rates. And I saw that play out before my eyes in the last 9 years at East since we had the U of R as a partnership organization. Community schools also help to address deficiency needs, which is something that Maslow talks about. I didn't just make that up, right? So deficiency needs that students have to fulfill before they can focus on cognitive growth in classrooms. And I'm actually going to ask Tom, do you mind passing this out for me? Both of these, actually. Thanks. So, because I know it's hard to see some of these charts. So these are both related to Maslow, right? And one is the same one that Liz kind of showed, and the other one kind of talks about this term deficiency needs versus growth needs. And so what Tom's passing out to you is both my papers, so you can actually see there's going to be a lot of little charts, and I want you to be able to actually read them. And also there's going to be another paper that I wanted to share that has to do with specifically how we do community schools at East. So the important thing about community schools is they address students in a holistic way, right? Not just academic achievement, but their overall health and well-being. And without students having their overall health and well-being needs met, they are not going to be the students that we want them to be, that their parents want them to be, that the world wants them to be. Like, it's just not going to happen without that. So community schools have actually been around, I learned, since the early 1900s. And then every 20, 30 years or so, there seems to be a resurgence of community schools being talked about, being pushed. And they did originate in urban public schools in the early 1900s. And the idea was that they would be the hub, the community hub, for schools to integrate services, coordinate with partners, and use government funding to meet students' needs, both academic, enrichment, social and health, and removing barriers to learning so that kids could succeed. I also saw in the literature that community schools meet the needs of low-achieving students in high-poverty schools, and they actually help to close the gap for students from low-income families, students of color, English language learners, and students with disabilities, which is huge for our district because we have large populations of all of those things. So this is why I'm handing you this paper, because you can see that this chart is harder to read up here than it is before your eyes. So this references some of the same data that Kyle and Liz referred to, right? The one thing that I can say when we started our partnership organization with the EPO that was taxing as a person who had been in that building for many years prior to it even being there, was that everything, all the data was kept, right? So when it started to me, that was kind of, I was like, oh, we're constantly having to fill out data. But then when you come to something like this and you're looking at the result of how has it been? What's the result of 9 years? I was thrilled that the data was there and I could easily access it, right? And it's easy to see as you look across from the 14-15 cohort to the 2022-23 cohort, you can see that in all subgroups, we have made significant improvements. And I know Kyle has said in his presentation, L rates of students graduating quadrupled, SPED rates tripled, right? But even if you look further down, right, and it has some statistics about, and I think it's on your second page, but it has some statistics about other groups of students, Hispanic graduates, Black and Hispanic graduation rate, economically disadvantaged graduate rate, Black graduates in general. You can see all of them improved. So beyond just what was mentioned by Kyle and Liz, all of those subgroups have improved in these 9 years, and improved significantly, not just like, 5 points, but you're talking you might have gone from 30 points and now you're at 77%. That's significant, and I have not seen that. Like Corinne said, I've been in this district a very long time. I have not seen that happen anyplace else. I also wanted to show some stats about the agencies. One of the things that we have at East, so we've always had like other buildings, Center for Youth, Hillside, Ibero, but we didn't always have all of these partnerships that we now have since we've become partners with the U of R. So we intentionally sought different partners in the community to help us with a variety of things, right? And so we didn't always have this many. And then the nice thing about it is they've really kept track of how many kids have accessed it, right? How many times have we provided services to kids? And so that way you can see how useful it actually has been, which you also have hopefully before you, which is a little easier to read, right? And kids have not just the typical things, but they have things like crisis intervention, drug and alcohol counseling, job readiness, mentoring. They have things like access to college tours, different field trips, social emotional support specifically. And then different like celebratory things, right? Like, or opportunities, cookies and conversation, right? Just to get kids to have some additional time with adults, or like there's a lunch bunch that meets with a school psychologist and they have lunch together every day around the table. That's different than how I've seen community schools play out in other schools. Many times in other schools, I find that community schools land on the backs of our staff, right? How much can we donate? How much extra time can we give? How much can we go out and gather resources from the community and bring it to our school? And that's great. I mean, that's great if people have the time to do that. But I will tell you that it's been much more successful for us to have these intentional partnerships, right? So that it's not that staff has to do more, it's that we have this on-site coordinator who's hired to oversee all of this, and then an administrator who's looking at the accountability, who's creating all of the data, right? To make sure that where the money is spent, we are getting an impact in that area with that agency, with our students. And I think that's super important. One of the things I had Tom pass out, and I was trying to save paper, so I wanted you guys to be able to see this sheet right here. And it has some QR codes on the back. The QR codes on the back, one of them is an East Community Directory. It was like 60 some pages. I did not want to print that out for everybody in the room. But if you scan it, you can see every agency, a picture of the person who runs it. What do they offer? What do they do? And that is something shared with families at the beginning of every school year. It's something we have hanging in our classrooms that kids can scan whenever they want. And then we also have the people that we partner with, right, as another. I know in my classroom there's a paper like this, but it talks about each of these things on the front. And next to it is a QR code. So if I'm a kid and we're struggling with food insecurity, I can scan for the community pantry. We're connected with FoodLink. FoodLink helps to stock our pantry. And a kid or a family can sign up for a weekly grocery delivery. Not have to come and fill a bag and then be embarrassed taking this bag back on the bus home with them. We will deliver that food to their residence. So it doesn't have to be something that the kid has to be embarrassed about. So it's things like that that I think have set East apart in a positive way. The urban clothing closet, to the point that I heard people talking about if kids don't have clean clothes, or what if a kid changes sizes and they just need a smaller size or a bigger size? You know, and what we see in our building is there'll be like a sign outside this urban clothing closet that'll say, hey, we're short on, we need shorts, boys and girls shorts. If anybody has boys and girls shorts in any size, please bring them in, right? Because not only is it the sizes for our kids in high school, but there's even sizes for kids, like if a kid goes in there and they need to get like an outfit for a little brother or sister, right? And when it's in the fall and it's coats, we see a sign that's like, hey, if you have any coats to donate. But that's not the only thing they rely on, because our community site coordinator works with the area agencies that get donations of clothing to help stock what we need at East. So it's not just on us to donate what we have each year. The barbershop, huge, being able to get your hair cut for free. So you're not staying at home because you're embarrassed about your hair, right? And no opportunity to go and get it done. I will say I brought these with me today. I just got these because at East we have a vision care program, and you can see on the front, well, I can see on the front of it, it says glasses made for students by students, right? Countless numbers, hundreds of glasses are made each year for our Rochester City School kids who may not be able to get glasses otherwise, right? And they're made for free, and they get a cute little East cleaning thing. And the reason I have them is because I'm not as young as those children, so I wear bifocals. And kids don't wear bifocals, right, usually? So they needed to, their last project of the year was they had to practice making bifocals. And so the teacher reached out to the staff and said, hey, anybody on staff who wears bifocals, our kids are, that's their last project they need to do. If you'd be willing, you have to bring in your script, and then they will practice with you. And so it was like I went in, I sat down just like I was going to the eye doctor normally, right? They measured, where's the center? Do you want progressive lenses? Do you want the ones with the line on them? You know, pick your frames, and the kid advises you as to what looks good with your features. And it's very cute. And then they fit you for the glasses, and then when the glasses come in, you go back, they make sure that they fit right, they make sure the 4 points hit the table, right? And they get you all wrapped up, and you do a little questionnaire at the end to say how they did. That is an invaluable service in our district. So it's things like that. And these kids, another thing I learned about that vision care program was it sets kids up for a job. Like, you can either go to college to become an optician, or you can do a 4-year internship to be the person that makes the glasses, right? And so some of these kids leave East High School with an internship that they can then work for the next couple of years until they can become the person that maybe owns their own business or works in collaboration with a doctor. That's huge. Just having these opportunities for kids to get jobs directly out of high school because of various CTE programs, this one being the one I'm featuring today, but we have many. And it's not district funded, and it's not staff funded, it's state funded. The state, they write a grant each year, they say we gave out this many pairs of glasses, we spent money on this, that, and the other thing, this is what we did with our money. Will you renew us for next year? Here's what we intend to do. And so for the last 9 years, they've been renewing this through a state grant. There's money out there, both state and federally, to support community schools. This past year alone, I know that NYSET talked about $100,000 went into the budget to support creating community schools across the state. We just have to access some of these opportunities and some of this money. And I think that was one of my recommendations. I think we need to embrace growing these services. I feel sad when I think about how much the kids at East have, and why don't other kids across our district have the same thing? They should. They should all have that, right? So instead of us worrying about how much it costs, we really need to work on ways that we can leverage the monies that are available out there so that all kids can have these same things. Because our kids live in persistent and extreme poverty. So if we want them to raise up to be able to hit that cognitive growth, we have to hit these basic needs. And I will tell you, again, having been at East for 23 years, I see a difference in kids and families. I see kids that are happier. I see kids actually talking about things you expect high school kids to talk about, right? I see kids they know to advocate for things. Hey, Mrs. Price, I'm having a really hard time. My mom and I aren't getting along. I got tossed out. I have nowhere to go. And we as a staff know what to do, right? We take them right up to the social worker. The social worker arranges for the kid to get a placement in a safe place for them to stay, where the electricity is provided, the heat's provided, food is provided. So, I mean, that's a huge difference. before the ECPO, kids would often not say that to you. Kids are embarrassed, of course, right? Like they don't want to tell you their personal business. But now that they know if they tell us, we can help them, it's a big difference. And kids are just, their families are more willing to come to celebrations at the school, right? Because now they see their kid is happier, the environment is welcoming, there are lots of things on the walls, right? To what Erin said. And there's more celebratory things going on than things where parents feel like they're unwelcome or they're gonna hear bad news about their kid, right? We try and focus on the positive things because who wants to go to a school and hear something negative about your kid? Nobody, not one parent, right? So if we can focus on the positive, it brings people in and it makes them want to keep coming. I know parent engagement has been a huge thing that we have gotten better at over these 9 years. Regularly bringing parents in for meetings, food is provided, it's in English and Spanish, it's on Zoom and in person for every parent meeting. I mean, it's very accommodating, right? And parents are very willing to come now because of that accommodating nature. One of my recommendations for the city school district is not just to embrace what we have going on at East and kind of check out the way it's organized so intentionally, but also make sure that we have a site coordinator on each school campus that is not an administrator. When we make an administrator the site coordinator of a community school, they often get pulled to do administrative things because they have to address a behavior or somebody who's comes to the office and needs to be spoken with, or that you just get pulled into other things. Your focus isn't on coordinating community schools. So we really need a site coordinator who's not an administrator that's hired to manage school implementation and accountability. I only know of 2 schools that do that, despite the fact that our city school district website says we have 20 community schools. I only know 17 has an on-site coordinator that is not an administrator, and East. So we need to expand that. That's the first thing. And then it needs to be intentionally planning. How can we take some of these same things and make sure all kids get health care, all kids can access food, all kids can have clean clothes, all kids can get dental care, right? Regardless of whether the EPO continues to be a partner with us. These partnerships, these services won't go away, whether the U of R is overseeing us or not. And that's what we need for all kids, in every school, on every campus, so that we all get to see more joy come back to the children and the families, and as a result, to the staff. Thank you very much.